So one day, this woman and a pizza delivery guy, they pull up to a dairy farm and they get out of the car and she hands him a pew-pew and he takes it and he raises it up and he points it at her head and he pulls the trigger. So her name's Natalie, she's 19. And one day, she becomes friends with a local homeless guy. This guy, Shawn. And she helps Shawn whenever she can with rides and stuff. But over time, Shawn starts to get a little too close to Natalie. And he starts getting obsessed with her. So she slowly starts distancing herself from him. But it's not working. So eventually, she puts her foot down. I don't want to see you anymore. And Shawn, he doesn't take this well at all. So he starts freaking out. He starts parking outside her house and sleeping outside of where she works. Of course, at this point, Natalie's doing everything she can to keep him away from her. She avoids his calls, she blocks him, she even files a restraining order against him. And around that time, she gets on Facebook and makes a post telling everyone Shawn has been stalking her and to ignore him and that he's mentally unwell. And that is where things go wrong. Because around a week later, Natalie's boyfriend, this guy, who we'll just call boyfriend, he gets home from work. And strangely, Natalie's not there, but all her stuff is. Plus, his pew-pew, his Glock, is missing. And boyfriend knows something's wrong, so he immediately calls the police.
My girlfriend got a protection order against this man who's been stalking her for quite some time, and I came home and she's missing.
And boyfriend tells them about Shawn, so now police gotta call Shawn in. So they call him in, they question him for a while, and Shawn says he doesn't know anything about this or about where Natalie is. And police don't have any evidence against him, so they let him go. And then Shawn goes and makes a video about this and he posts it on his YouTube channel.
The Broomfield Police Department just got a hold of me.
The next day, a hiker is out hiking in the woods near a local dairy farm. And suddenly, he stumbles across a body. Natalie's body. She had been unalived, shot in the head. And everyone is immediately suspicious of Shawn. I mean, they had all seen Natalie's Facebook post from a week ago. They know he's been stalking her. So they all start bringing this up in the comments of Natalie's Facebook post. And they're all making other posts and they're saying, Shawn definitely had something to do with this. Police need to look into him again. And Shawn, he sees all these accusations and he doesn't like it. So he's got to go on Facebook Live to defend himself. And there, he basically says, sure, I'm a weird guy, but I'm not a killer. But that doesn't work. In fact, his response to all this just makes the backlash worse. And soon word gets out and people are talking about it locally and reporters are chasing Shawn around trying to get him to admit that he knows something about Natalie's death. And all this ends up being too much for Shawn. So he starts posting on his Facebook about wanting to unalive himself. And people see this and they immediately report it to the police. And then police, they go and do a wellness check on him. They show up to where he is and he is not doing so good. So they take him to a treatment center. And there, he starts freaking out and yelling. And I guess he assaults a police officer. And of course, they got to arrest him for that. Here's his mugshot. And once Shawn gets arrested, the internet and some of Natalie's family members, they all start rejoicing. And everyone's celebrating and everyone's happy. I mean, Natalie's killer just got arrested. Until suddenly police let Shawn go again. And not only that, they clear his name. So I guess Shawn was right. He's a weird guy, but he didn't kill Natalie. Now at this point in the story, police have looked at everything they can, but they have no more leads. But then about a month goes by and they finally get a hold of Natalie's phone records because it takes a while to get phone records. Once those records come in, police find over 100 messages to and from a number they don't recognize. That number belongs to this guy, who we'll call Pizza Man. So police find Pizza Man and they bring him in for questioning. And there, Pizza Man says, yeah, he met Natalie once, but he really doesn't know what this is all about. So then Pizza Man starts bullshitting and he changes his story a bunch of times. But then, after a lot of questioning, he finally admits that, yeah, he does know Natalie. And also, he was with her when she died. And then he goes on to tell them a version of what possibly happened to her. Here's what Pizza Man claims ultimately happened. About a week after making that Facebook post about Shawn, Natalie wakes up in a really bad place. She's depressed, she's having issues with her boyfriend, she's got this guy stalking her, she's also got some drug issues she's been dealing with. She's a whole mess. And so she's thinking about unaliving herself. But she can't actually bring herself to do it. And that is when she gets a crazy idea. She'll put an ad on Craigslist looking for a hitman, and that hitman can come unalive her. So she goes to her computer and she types up this ad and she posts it. And like, who the hell would possibly reply to this ad? Well, minutes later, someone actually does reply. Pizza Man. And he tells her, yeah, he can do it. He says he's a hitman. In fact, not only is he a hitman, he says he's an experienced hitman. But in reality, he's not. He's just a guy who works at Domino's. So Pizza Man and Natalie, they start texting back and forth a ton. And Natalie tells him she's serious about this and she wants it to be over with quick. And she asks him if he has a pew-pew to do it with. And Pizza Man's like, no, And she's like, all good, I have one. And she goes and gets her boyfriend's Glock. Later that day, Pizza Man drives over to pick her up. So he gets there, and then she gets in his car, and they drive around for a few hours, and they're looking for the perfect spot to do this in. And eventually, they find that perfect spot. It's near the woods on this dairy farm. So they stop at the farm, and Natalie hands Pizza Man the Glock, and Pizza Man is like, are you sure you want to do this? And Natalie's like, don't try and talk me out of it. So then Pizza Man raises up the pew-pew, and he points it at her, and he closes his eyes, and he pulls the trigger, shooting her in the head, just like she asked him to. So then he grabs her purse, and he throws the purse and the Glock in the trunk of his car, and then he drives away. That is the story Pizza Man told police, that she wanted to unalive herself, and all he did was help her do it. And no one knows how true his story is. Regardless, it's still legally murder. So they arrest Pizza Man, here's his mugshot, he takes a plea deal, and he's sentenced to 48 years in prison. Shout out to Craigslist and Domino's.